Hi, my name is Sam and welcome to Calves Performance Garage. On today's video, I'm going to be tearing apart this EZ30 engine that was in my Outback that has got a valve spring issue. So I'm tearing it down to get the head sent off and completely reconditioned. Plus then I'm going to fully reseal the whole engine as I've got a reseal kit, put a new timing chain kit on it, and it should be 100% and ready for years to come. So I've never actually worked properly on one of these engines apart from just doing general maintenance on them. So I'm actually really interested to see the ins and outs and how it all works. So tearing it down will be a perfect opportunity to learn all about how to work on these engines. Like with any EJ, I'm going to start off by removing the intake manifold and all that associated stuff. Once I've got that, from what I can see, there's not really that much to actually pull off. So I'm pretty happy with that. In terms of removing the engine, there probably would have been 20 bolts maximum, not much at all. So that was really good. So because I haven't worked on this engine, I will be taking a lot of photos. Plus I've also got the service manual. So that will help me at least put it back together. Time to start disassembling this beast. So upon further inspection, it turns out, I don't know how I did not see this before, but the plastic intake manifold is not connected to the injectors. So it's looking like I will need to first remove the manifold, then remove the fuel rails, and then the wiring all comes out after that, as it's all intertwined underneath different coolant pipes. It's a little bit annoying how they do it like that. The EJs, it's much easier, but hey, that's obviously the design they've gone for. There must be a reason for it. So let's take this plastic bit off. So the intake manifold's now off. It came off in 5 pieces. The 2 little metal bits that protect the injectors, the actual big plastic manifold itself. Then there was a water pipe that unfortunately weaves over top of the wiring. And then of course there was all the wiring and the fuel rails and injectors. Now that I know that the fuel rails and injectors have to come out, they are some parts that I'm going to order. So as I've been going through this, I've got a list of items that I know I need to order and the quantities. So it means that I can get all those parts ordered, ready and prepared, so I can assemble this as soon as possible. So I'm going to start now with the timing case. I'll remove this first, get all that off, and we'll see what's next. Alright, so all the bolts are out. There are some dowel pins, there's one on each side. So what I did do, I just quickly soaked them in WD-40, kind of like what I do when there's a transmission or an engine I gotta take out. Hopefully should loosen them up, but we'll see how easy it is to get off. Alright, so I finally got the timing cover off. Geez, it's really stuck in there, I must say. Like, I had to heat up this top dowel just to make sure it came off nice and smooth. And then I just went through and just pried over around the sides, hit it with the hammer, and it finally came off. So let's put this aside. We'll get the engine to top dead center. Then we can start removing the timing chain and all this stuff up front. So unfortunately, the oil pump bolts are really stuck in there. I tried to remove one just with a ratchet, but I felt like I was stripping it. One thing that I did read was if you use a impact driver, it gets it out really easily. So I'm hoping that it will get it out really easy. So let's give this a try. And so it turns out that this impact driver, it is a 1/2 inch end, or this like other size. I think that's a 3/8 like hex end or something. But unfortunately I've got nothing to adapt down to a 4mm. So I'm gonna need to go to the shops tomorrow and try figure something out. Hopefully they've got an impact socket that goes to a 1/2 inch. If not, I'll have to try something else, and eventually, if worse comes to worse, I can always just weld a nut onto the end and get it off that way. So I'll see you on a new day. So it's another day, and I went to the shops and got a 4mm impact Allen head. So this has got a 1/2 inch tip, so it should now fit into my impact driver. So now hopefully with putting this in, giving it a big whack with the hammer, should hopefully come loose. Well, that's the plan anyway. So let's give this a try. Here we go. I have stripped that, so that is a lost cause. I'll need to try figure out some other way, but at least 2 out of 3. Here we go. No, it keeps going the other way. That one is also stripped. So it looks like I'm going to need to find a way to get it off, which is going to be fun. Hey, at least these ones are out. So I think the plan of attack is I'll get a small nut and I'll just weld it on there. I think that will probably have a much better chance of getting them out. The only problem is putting too much heat into it, but I think I should be fine as long as I just don't overheat it too much. So let's plug in the welder, get some nuts. Yes! So I got one out. There's just one more. That actually came out a lot cleaner than I expected. And I'm so happy that it worked. It turns out that the coating on top of the bolts didn't really adhere that well to the weld. So after cleaning it, that seemed to adhere a lot better. Oh well, so let's get cracking onto the next one. Thank God. I went through 2, 4, 6, 8 bolts in total just to undo these 2 bolts. I think it mainly shows that I really need to improve my welding skills. So unfortunately that's a whole bunch of nuts wasted, but hey, at least it's now out. I've got new ones ordered, ready to go in, as these are a common problem, but at least now I can finally continue on and get the heads off. So I'll pack everything up and we'll get to it. So now with the back of the timing cover off, I can now work on the heads. The head shouldn't be too bad. It's just all this stuff in front. There's just a lot of components, and from what I can see, there's going to be a lot of cleaning involved as well. So yeah, I'm curious to see what's wrong with the heads. I'm definitely going to start with the passenger side, as that's where the issue is. So let's get stuck into it. So I just took the bucket and the valve spring retainer. You can really see a bit of damage on the retainer there up top. And of course, the spring, which has nicely snapped in half. That is really beautiful. From what I can see, it looks all good in there. Hopefully the valve is all right, but we'll see that when we get it out. But there we are. Finally 100% diagnosed the issue. Pretty unbelievable that I snapped the spring, and pretty unlucky, but unfortunately, that's what's happened. So all I need to do, I just got to take the spark plugs out, and then it's the head studs, and the head will come off. So upon further inspection, it looks like I also bent the valve, as the valve is not moving at all. Definitely will mean new guides, but everything on the inside looks alright. There's a few little score marks where the bucket seats, but I think that could just be normal. So I think I should be right with that. But yeah, unfortunately with the bent valve, it doesn't actually sit flat. And I can't push it out, and I don't want to push it out myself just in case I damage anything else. I'll let the machine shop do all that for me. So I'm just going to put the cams back in because they'll need the cams for all the clearance, and also it helps hold the buckets in place so nothing gets lost. So yeah, with all this, I'm going to take the other head off, and then once both of them are done, I'm going to take a lot of thorough photos of all of the bolts and whatnot that I reconnected and their positions, and then I'm going to put them in boxes so they're organized per head and I can easily reassemble it later. So let's chuck these back in and get on to the next. Unfortunately, the camera battery went out, but now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go around, take photos of absolutely every single bolt and where they go, and then I'll put them in a container so I can reassemble it later. So, new battery in the camera, and let's get to it. Alright, now with the passenger side done, I'm just going to spin the engine stand around and we'll get started on the driver's side. It should just be rinse and repeat now, the exact same process. So, let's get started with that. And there we are. The engine is fully tore down, the heads are off, and they're ready to go to the machine shop. I'm not sure how I feel about the spring snapping. Like, it's really, really unlucky. My mates who work at Subaru have seen that exact same issue happen in cars with like over 250,000 Ks, poorly maintained, like overheat, everything. But my Outback is maintained constantly, like any worn part, bush, engine oil change on time, everything. I make sure I get it done. Yeah, it's nothing really a fault of my own, it's just unlucky. Further inspection on the piston, there's no damage or dents, so I'm pretty lucky with that. One thing I did notice was the valve spring is bent. I'm going to have a quick look to see if it has hit other valve springs and that's why it's been bent, or if it's damaged any other valve springs. Yeah, I'll send the heads off to the machine shop along with Ebony's heads. So yeah, sending 2 sets of heads just from our fleet to a machine shop, ready to go. So for my first time tearing down an EZ30, it's not too difficult. Just the main difference between this and the EJ is there's a lot more bolts and oil lines, but especially with the timing chain, there's just so many different bolts that go in different places. So that really takes up a lot more time. It's not really that it's difficult. Yeah, I can definitely agree that the oil pump bolts are an absolute pain in the ass. I'm so grateful that I at least got 2, because just trying to weld a nut to those other 2 was so difficult. But I definitely learnt a lot from that. So I'm happy with that for next time when I do need to do a bolt extraction. Definitely need to clean it a bit more and hold the bead for longer. I think that's my biggest issue with welding. I don't hold the bead for long enough so it doesn't get hot enough, doesn't penetrate, and just doesn't do its job. After doing this EZ30, I must say, I way prefer to work on EJs. They're so much easier, so much simpler, and just everything comes off in a really logical order. Like they're pretty similar, just the main point of difference being the timing chain. But I have most of the parts ordered. I'm actually going to quickly go through, make sure I have all the parts. There's a few other bolts here on the timing chain that I noticed came with, had Loctite on it. So instead of cleaning the bolts and putting new Loctite, I'm just going to buy new bolts with Loctite pre-installed and I'll install them. So I just got to go through, make another list, make sure I have every single part. So by the time the heads come back from the machine shop, I'm ready to assemble it and I can finally get my Outback up and running again, because I absolutely miss it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, comments, or video suggestions, please leave them down in the comments section below. I've also noticed that most of you guys watching are not subscribed, so please consider subscribing, and if you really like the video, please give it a like. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at 07carves. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and keep on learning.